I worked 30 years as faithful sidekick for Kimasabe. Hunt, fish, make food, sew clothes, sweep up, stay awake all night, listen for enemies for Kimasabe, risk life for Kimasabe.
What if I told you that beneath the glamorous facade of Lone Ranger star Jay Silverheels lay a story far darker and more haunting than anything you've ever known? A story that only recently began to surface when an unidentified skeleton was discovered inside his abandoned home, alongside scattered bits of foil, a broken piece of a dog tag, and deep claw marks etched into the basement walls, slowly peeling back the layers of darkness long buried. Behind the beloved portrayal of Tonto was a life filled with untold struggles, bitter turns, and a tragic ending known to very few, from chilling mysteries inside a crumbling house to the complex turmoil of a marriage and an uphill battle against Hollywood itself. Jay Silverheels lived a journey entirely different from the righteous hero he so often portrayed on screen. Stay with us as we turn back time and pull back the curtain on the untold truth of Jay Silverheels, a man of complexity, depth, and a fate as haunting as any character he ever brought to life. From a reservation in Canada to a stunt career in Hollywood. Although the name Jay Silverheels sounds purely Native American, it was, in fact, a stage name he adopted for his entertainment career. He was born Harold J. Smith in 1912. His father, George Alexander Smith, was a distinguished Indigenous soldier, one of the most decorated members of the Canadian Regiment during World War I, a man who fought valiantly for a country that still viewed his people as second-class citizens. Growing up in southern Ontario, Harry Smith was naturally drawn to lacrosse, a sport as culturally significant as hockey in Canada. Lacrosse, invented centuries ago by North America's Indigenous peoples, was more than a game. It was a means of resolving tribal disputes long before Europeans arrived. Silverheels quickly rose to prominence with his natural talent, becoming a member of Canada's national lacrosse team. His extraordinary athleticism also shone through in wrestling and boxing, where his competitive spirit propelled him beyond the confines of the reservation to compete in major venues like Buffalo. One day, while competing in Los Angeles, Silverheels caught the eye of comedian Joe E. Brown, who saw something unique in him and encouraged him to try acting. At the time, Silverheels was a top scorer in lacrosse and one of the highest-paid athletes in the sport, giving him the financial flexibility to consider such a dramatic career shift. Through Brown's introduction, Silverheels secured his first Hollywood job as a stuntman. His screen debut came in the 1937 musical film Make-A-Wish, starring Basil Rathbone. Although the film itself did not make waves, it marked the beginning of Silverheels' Hollywood journey. After this brief stint, he returned to lacrosse and boxing, though some sources suggest he remained in Hollywood during his early years. By 1939, Silverheels had officially returned to the film capital, again thanks to Joe E. Brown's connections, and started taking uncredited stunt roles to survive during these difficult times. He also worked as a waiter. The unfading pride of a Mohawk man. Jay Silverheels carried a profound and unwavering pride in his Mohawk heritage, a belief deeply rooted throughout his life. Born on the Grand River Reservation in Ontario, home to the Six Nations Confederacy of the Iroquois, Silverheels grew up surrounded by cultural values, traditions, and a reverence for ancestors held as sacred treasures. From a young age, he was taught to respect the customs of his people, to listen carefully to the stories of the elders, and to understand the immense responsibility that came with his ancestral legacy. These lessons were not just family teachings, they were a way of life that shaped his character. The environment of the Six Nations Reservation did more than nourish his Mohawk identity. It broadened his cultural perspective, allowing him to appreciate the philosophies and traditions of Indigenous nations beyond his own. This multicultural grounding quietly became a foundation in his acting career, especially when Hollywood repeatedly assigned him stereotypical, shallow native roles. It was these lived experiences that allowed Silverheels to breathe dignity, humanity, and rare depth into the native characters he portrayed, qualities largely absent from earlier depictions on screen. Before becoming a familiar face in films, Silverheels had already made his mark in sports, particularly in lacrosse, a sport with sacred roots in Indigenous culture. His speed, strength, and agility on the field quickly turned him into a rising star. He played for the North American native lacrosse team, traveling across Canada and the United States, and even participating in international matches. However, his talents extended beyond lacrosse. Silverheels was also a formidable boxer. It was this resilience and strength that became his first ticket out of the reservation and into the larger world beyond. Lacrosse also became the first bridge that led him to the United States, where the allure of Hollywood gradually stirred his curiosity about the entertainment world. Yet the reality of Hollywood was anything but easy. Silverheels started with minor, uncredited roles, mostly portraying anonymous native warriors in westerns and adventure films. These characters were often one-dimensional, formulaic, and devoid of historical accuracy or cultural nuance. But Silverheels did not lose heart. He saw something larger within these small opportunities, a chance to challenge outdated narratives, a chance to etch real Indigenous dignity onto the silver screen. The arduous road to Hollywood. Jay Silverheels' journey to Hollywood was not paved with roses or dazzling lights. It was a grueling uphill battle, marked by persistence, unyielding willpower, and a deep desire to redefine the image of Native Americans on screen. After giving up a successful athletic career, Silverheels entered the world of entertainment with cautious optimism. Hollywood's allure was undeniable, but the barriers were equally glaring. In the 1940s, Native American actors were rarely granted roles of depth. They were often confined to poor stereotypes, appearing merely as silent backdrops in Western films. Silverheels fully understood the landscape he was stepping into. He began with minor roles, often cast as an anonymous Indian characters with almost no dialogue, no inner life. Yet for him, no matter how small the role, full dedication was essential. Jay approached each part with the same seriousness and professionalism that had made him stand out on the lacrosse field. Maximizing every fleeting moment, Hollywood fate offered him. Most of those early roles went uncredited, but they were invaluable. They gave him his first foothold in the industry and served as a silent classroom where he learned the intricate inner workings of film production. Jay approached each part with the same seriousness and professionalism that had made him stand out on the lacrosse field. Maximizing every fleeting moment Hollywood fate offered him. Most of those early roles went uncredited, but they were invaluable. They gave him his first foothold in the industry and served as a silent classroom where he learned the intricate inner workings of film production. Determined not to remain trapped in stereotypical background roles, Jay took proactive steps to hone his craft. He enrolled in acting classes, diligently observed, and absorbed everything he could, from stage techniques and performance timing to mastering how to command a camera. He understood that success was not only achieved in front of the lens, but also through relationships behind the scenes. Silverheels spent time building connections with actors, directors, and casting agents, people who gradually recognized in him a quiet magnetism and a remarkable sense of discipline. It was this quiet groundwork behind the scenes that laid the solid foundation for his future career breakthrough. It did not take long for Silverheels to rise beyond B-movies. In 1940, he appeared in Warner Brothers' adventure film The Seahawk, alongside major names like Errol Flynn and Claude Rains, a leap far beyond anything his mentor Joe E. Brown had ever achieved. Later that year, he took on another small role at RKO Studios in the musical comedy Too Many Girls, which also happened to be the film where Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz first met. By then, Jay Silverheels had worked at most major studios, building an extensive acting portfolio. In 1941, he joined Republic Studios, famously known as the king of B-movies, with the Saturday matinee adventure serial Jungle Girl, full of evil sorcerers, wild animals, and actors in elaborate costumes. Somewhere amidst the chaos of these scenes was Silverheels. Although he was hardly recognizable, a year later, he appeared in Valley of the Sun, 1942. Alongside Lucille Ball and Iron Eyes Cody, the cast also included Chris Willow Bird, a Native American actor who, after enduring 14 stereotypical roles, decided to leave Hollywood in bitter disappointment. The outdoor scenes were filmed at Taos Pueblo, New Mexico, a location that would later gain fame through the film Easy Rider, 1969. After Valley of the Sun, Silverheels participated in The Perils of Neoka, the sequel to Jungle Girl, where he and Cody were cast as Arabs, yet another testament to Hollywood's blatant disregard for cultural authenticity at the time. Before leaving Republic, Silverheels also performed supporting scenes for The Phantom, based on the popular comic strip of the same name. He then appeared in the obscure Good Morning, Judge 1943. But a major milestone arrived with Daredevils of the West 1943. For the first time, his name appeared on screen, albeit still under his birth name, Harry Smith, playing Kiaga, a rare instance where he portrayed a non-native character. Meanwhile, most native roles in films continued to be assigned to white actors, a sad reflection of Hollywood's practices. Unfortunately, much of the footage from Daredevils of the West was lost after Republic Studios sold the rights to the Hopalong Cassidy television series. Silverheels closed out 1943 by playing a wrestler in The Girl from Monterey, a product of PRC, a studio infamous for its low-budget, low-quality films. Fate seemed almost sealed that much of his career would be tied to westerns, as Hollywood left little room for native actors to break free from precast molds. One of the brighter spots among Silverheels' smaller roles was the film Northern Pursuit, 1943, alongside Errol Flynn. He also participated in the wartime action film Passage to Marseille, 1944, where he worked with legends like Humphrey Bogart, Peter Lorre, Sidney Greenstreet, and Claude Rains. In addition, Silverheels made his debut at MGM with a role in the comedy film Lost in a Harem, 1944, starring the famous duo Abbott and Costello and set in the Middle East. Ironically, this otherwise harmless comedy was banned in Morocco and heavily censored in Syria for its grotesque and offensive portrayal of Arabs. Meanwhile, Lou Costello, one of the leading actors, was privately struggling to cope with the devastating loss of his young son to a drowning accident, a haunting grief he tried to fill with relentless work and inventions, including the creation of the first commercial ice-making machine, the precursor to modern ice machines today. The Lone Ranger and the fateful turning point. The moment that would forever change Jay Silverheels' career came in 1949, when he was cast as Tonto in the television series The Lone Ranger. This was not merely a personal breakthrough, but a turning point that made him one of the most famous native actors of the century. The search for the actor to play Tonto had been anything but simple. The producers sought someone who could bring genuine authenticity and powerful presence to the role, someone who could stand alongside the Lone Ranger not merely as a sidekick, but as a character of true weight and depth. Jay Silverheels' profound Mohawk heritage, his quietly intense demeanor, and his cultivated acting skills made him stand out among a large pool of candidates. His audition left a strong impression, and after much deliberation, the producers decided to place their trust in him. The Lone Ranger was not just an ordinary Western series. It debuted at a time when post-World War II America craved clear moral tales about justice and untarnished heroes. The show quickly became a cultural phenomenon, engraving the images of the masked Lone Ranger and his loyal companion Tonto into the American consciousness as inseparable symbols. In the role of Tonto, Jay Silverheels played a pivotal role in shaping the show's identity. He infused the character with nuance, a quiet strength, and a loyalty that transcended words, offering audiences, for the first time, an indigenous character with real human depth rather than a silent backdrop, though still constrained by the stereotypes of the era. Silverheels brought to Tonto a dignity and emotional complexity previously unseen on television. For Jay Silverheels, the role of Tonto was more than just a job. It was a statement. At a time when native actors were marginalized or caricatured, he stepped to the forefront of the entertainment industry and asserted the presence of a real, dignified native man. Though commercially triumphant, The Lone Ranger was not without its shortcomings, especially in its portrayal of indigenous people through Hollywood's narrow lens. Jay Silverheels worked tirelessly to imbue Tonto with authenticity and honor. But within the confines of the era, limits were inescapable. The fame that came with the role propelled Jay Silverheels to great heights, but it also boxed him into a specific character type, depriving him of opportunities to showcase greater complexity and depth. It was a frustrating reality for an artist acutely aware of his own vast potential. Silverheels was never blind to the issues surrounding the role that had brought him fame. In later interviews, he candidly expressed his mixed feelings about Tonto. On one hand, grateful for the opportunity; on the other, deeply aware of the harmful stereotypes the character inadvertently helped perpetuate. This inner conflict continued to simmer within him, fueling his drive not only to keep acting, but also to fight to change how Hollywood portrayed Native people. Jay Silverheels understood that his responsibility was larger than a single role. He did not merely want to exist within the entertainment industry, he wanted to change it. And from the modest platform that the Lone Ranger provided, he embarked on that path with pride, courage, and an unyielding spirit. Life after Tonto. Although Jay Silverheels is best known for his iconic role as Tonto in The Lone Ranger, his acting career did not end. When the show concluded, he continued to work steadily in Hollywood, even though most of the roles he was offered were merely variations of the same stereotypical character type. After The Lone Ranger wrapped, Silverheels struggled with being typecast as the native sidekick. But he did not let that hold him back. He took on various roles in films and television shows, including The Man Who Loved Cat Dancing and Santee Ski. Though these parts largely still revolved around native characters, Silverheels always strived to bring a unique depth and complexity to each role, making the most of every opportunity to portray humanity and dignity. Despite the limitations imposed by typecasting, Silverheels' talent was not forgotten by Hollywood. Throughout his career, he received multiple honors, including his induction into the Western Performers Hall of Fame at the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum, a well-deserved recognition of his undeniable contributions to the Western genre. Beyond acting, Jay Silverheels was a passionate social activist. He used the platform his fame provided to advocate for better representation of Native Americans in film and television, not just for himself, but for future generations. Determined to change the way Hollywood told stories, he founded the Indian Actors Workshop in Los Angeles, an organization dedicated to training and mentoring Native actors, helping them break into mainstream Hollywood and showcase their talents authentically. Unburdened by decades-old stereotypes, through this initiative, Silverheels not only created opportunities, but also challenged deeply entrenched prejudices, opening a new door for future Native actors. Jay Silverheels left a lasting mark, not just on Hollywood, but on the Native community he championed. His efforts in both the arts and activism paved the way for a new era, one in which Native actors had greater opportunities to step into roles that were more nuanced, humane, and faithful to their heritage. Behind the spotlight. Jay Silverheels was not just a talented actor or a passionate activist. He was also a devoted family man, a loyal friend, and a person whose concerns extended far beyond the stage lights. Despite his fame, Jay was known for being extremely private about his personal life. He married Mary Deemer, and together they built a happy family with 4 children. Throughout his career, Silverheels worked hard to shield his family from media scrutiny, focusing instead on providing them with a stable, ordinary life. His children remember him as a loving, supportive father who instilled in them fundamental values of humility, hard work, and respect. Outside of acting and activism, Jay Silverheels nurtured many other passions to maintain balance in his life. He was an avid fisherman, finding peace and serenity in the vastness of nature. His love of sports, born during his youth as a lacrosse athlete, never faded. Throughout his life, Silverheels remained a passionate sports fan, following the world of athletics as a source of endless inspiration. He also possessed a lesser-known creative side, a love for writing. Silverheels penned several scripts, though none were ever produced, which reflected his deep yearning to express himself in newer, more diverse ways. Jay Silverheels' life was a tapestry woven with both triumph and challenge, with moments of glory and profound inner reflection. In his later years, his health began to decline. By the late 1970s, Jay suffered a series of strokes that significantly impaired his mobility, forcing him to step away from the stage and film sets. Despite facing harsh physical hardships, his fighting spirit never waned. Silverheels remained devoted to his advocacy for native rights, continuing to be a steadfast voice at various forums, even as his personal health increasingly limited his physical presence. The skeleton in the abandoned house he once lived. Jay Silverheels passed away on March 5th, 1980. During the inventory of his estate, those in charge stumbled upon a small room deep beneath the basement of the house, a space long sealed off and seemingly unused. When they opened the door, they did not expect to find anything more than old, dusty belongings. Instead, under thick layers of dust, they discovered the skeleton of a young person, long decomposed. Beside the remains were yellowed old newspapers, scattered documents related to native rights activism, and a broken fragment of a dog tag. There were no missing persons reports matching the discovery in the area, no search records corresponding to the estimated time of death. The death of a young native individual in silence, unsearched for, unquestioned, seemed to mirror a chilling reality, the societal neglect toward native voices at the time. Investigators proposed several theories. One suggested that the young man might have come to Jay Silverheels seeking help, hoping to find support from a celebrated native figure. Throughout his career, Silverheels had been known to assist young native artists, many of whom faced discrimination, unemployment, and dead ends in Hollywood. Another, darker theory proposed that the young man might have been living secretly in the house, quietly sharing the space with Silverheels during his later years, when the actor's health and career were in decline and the house had turned into an isolated, private fortress, shut away from the outside world. There was no concrete evidence indicating that Jay Silverheels directly knew of the young man's presence or that he was involved in the death. Nevertheless, the setting of the house where a man who had fought for native rights lived out his final years in solitude, and where the anonymous remains of a native youth were found, raised heavy questions about the silent tragedies hidden behind Hollywood's dazzling facade. This story was not merely about a forgotten body, it symbolized abandoned dreams, voices that once tried to rise but ultimately sank into silence, the very injustice Jay Silverheels had spent his life striving to change. Net worth left behind. At the time of his death on March 5th, 1980, Jay Silverheels' net worth was estimated at around $1 million, a modest figure by today's standards, but a significant achievement at the time for an actor who had battled typecasting and racial barriers throughout most of his career. His wealth was accumulated from multiple sources: his acting career, small business ventures, and his activism work, though the majority stemmed from his iconic role as Tonto in the television series The Lone Ranger and subsequent acting roles in Hollywood over the years. Silverheels' income largely depended on the roles he was offered, most of them native characters built around limited stereotypes. Yet, these roles provided him with a stable income throughout the 1950s and 1960s. At the height of The Lone Ranger, he earned between $1, $1,000, and $2, $1,000 per episode, a substantial amount at the time. As television salaries continued to rise into the 1960s, Silverheels' earnings increased as well, though opportunities to fully showcase his acting range remained confined within familiar limitations. An enduring legacy. The legacy of Jay Silverheels, both as an actor and a tireless activist, continues to inspire and profoundly impact those who follow in his footsteps. After his passing, numerous forms of recognition were organized to honor his immense contributions to film and television, documentaries, exhibitions, and posthumous tribute programs have together cemented his place as an iconic figure in the history of popular culture. His pioneering efforts in founding the Indian Actors Workshop still resonate today, serving as a crucial foundation for training, supporting, and empowering native actors. Through this initiative, Silverheels did not just open a door, he laid the first stone in building a new path for generations of future artists. Jay Silverheels was not merely Tonto, the loyal companion loved by millions of viewers. He was a multifaceted individual, a persistent spirit who made a lasting impact both within Hollywood and in the native community he proudly represented. From his early days as a talented athlete to his journey as a trailblazing actor and a dedicated activist, his life story reflects a path filled with resilience, nuance, and depth. Beyond the screen, Silverheels was a devoted father, a sincere friend, a patient mentor to the next generation, and a silent warrior tirelessly advocating for change. His legacy transcends the confines of a single role. It is the legacy of someone who bravely paved the way for a generation, allowing native dreams to shine on the world stage with the respect and dignity they rightfully deserve. Looking back on his life, we see not just a famous actor or a cultural icon, but a vivid story of authenticity, of relentless struggle for fair representation, and of a lasting influence that extends far beyond the Hollywood stage. Jay Silverheels' journey is a powerful reminder that breaking barriers and challenging stereotypes does not merely change the fate of one individual, it opens the way for countless others to follow. His legacy does not lie in the stage lights or the reels of film that once rolled. It lies in the real changes he sparked, quiet but profound shifts in how the world sees and respects voices that had long been ignored. And you, what do you think about the life and journey of Jay Silverheels? Leave a comment below and share your thoughts with us.